This was quite a sight. She saw Hua Ting's upper body above her. "You're awake?" Hua Ting's statement was a declarative sentence. She suddenly opened her eyes wide, and her sleepiness vanished instantly. Good heavens! How could she forget? Today is her wedding night. What are you doing? He lowered his head. Oh my god! Is he a dog? Why did he bite her lip again? Did you lie to her and say you never kissed her? Su Mianmian could clearly feel his breath on her face. Okay. Although I have no experience, I've watched TV. Who kisses like they're biting? It hurts. She reached out and pushed his chest, feeling as if her hand was about to be burned. He looks so thin when he's dressed, how come he has so much muscle when he takes his clothes off? Hua Ting saw that his young wife's face was completely red, like a shrimp that was about to be cooked. He chuckled softly and asked in a low voice. What's wrong? Are you biting me? It hurts. What's going on? Wasn't Hua Ting supposed to be cold, aloof, and unapproachable? A cold and aloof big boss without a trace of humanity? His sudden change in demeanor is so jarring. I'm sorry, I'll be gentler, he said, lowering his head to lick her ear. I didn't expect us to get to this point so quickly. Can't we take it slow? Su Mianmian's words were really lacking in presence. Okay, we take it slow. The night is still long. My ear was bitten. Su Mianmian's entire body went limp, her mind went blank, and she couldn't muster any strength at all. Su Mianmian was inwardly crying. She doesn't want to be eaten. What should she do? Hua Ting looked on with satisfaction, thinking to himself. This dress of clothing is really in the way. He lowered his head again. The night is still long. Hua Ting looked at her rosy lips, which he had bitten, her eyes moist, from the pain, and Su Mianmian's appearance seemed to be teasing him. How did I get so drunk yesterday? I feel like I did something really awful while I was in a daze. This is so painful, why do people still like it so much? I just don't understand. Afterwards, Su Mianmian lay on the bed feeling as if her whole body had been run over by a car, any movement caused pain in a certain private area. It seems there's bleeding. She noticed the bleeding when she moved and wanted to get out of bed. Hua Ting glanced at Su Mianmian and realized that she was in pain, with an unnatural blush on her face. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? No. He bent down, reached out and touched her forehead. I'm fine, don't worry about me. He bent down, reached out and touched her forehead, and said. You have a slight fever. When Su Mianmian heard that she had a fever, she glared at him but with sadder eyes, thinking to herself. Really? No wonder I feel hot. A little dizzy. Seeing her looking at him like that, Hua Ting said coldly. You're sick, and you still try to seduce me. Hua Ting dared not hesitate any longer and immediately picked up the phone and dialed a number. The call was answered quickly, but the caller hung up just as quickly. Hua Ting dialed again, and finally, after the second call, the phone was answered, and a very annoyed voice came from the other end. Hua Ting, do you even know what time it is? Calling so early in the morning. Have your wife come to my house. Hua Ting said coldly. There was another silence on the other end of the phone, then the man angrily cursed. Damn it, you're sending my wife to your house this early in the morning. Do you think I'm dead? Ouch. Honey, why are you awake? Ouch. I wasn't cursing you. How could I possibly be cursing you? Ouch. After hearing the arguing on the other end, Hua Ting silently hung up the phone. 10 minutes later, strikingly handsome men arrived at the Hua family home. Hua Ting, you were finally murdered in a revenge killing? Was it a gunshot wound? A burly uncle who was over 1.9 meters tall, almost 2 meters, and covered in muscles. Hua Ting glanced at him and said. Unfortunately, neither is true, my wife has a fever, where is your wife? At this moment, the burly man's right eye was covered in bruises, clearly from being punched. Where is your little darling? Isn't he feverish? Lead the way. Hua Ting glanced at him, then turned to look at the handsome young man Xiao Yi. A handsome young man, about 1.75 meters tall, with exquisite and captivating features, and somewhat androgynous. The two were childhood friends. Xiao Yi is the kind of girl who dresses like a boy, acts like a boy, speaks like a boy, and has boyish tastes. Hua Ting glanced at him, then turned to look at the handsome young man Xiao Yi. When he saw that she was wearing a men's black down jacket and loose cotton pants, his brows furrowed even more. Gong Beiqing, can't you let your wife dress like a woman? That's why gossip magazines are spreading rumors that you're gay. My wife looks good in everything. I don't care what others think. Xiao Yi entered the bedroom, not even having time to complain about Hua Ting's unchanged tastes over the years. She was startled by Su Mianmian's face. She reached out and touched Su Mianmian's forehead before looking at Hua Ting and saying, I suspect your little cutie's fever is caused by an external injury, and improper treatment could lead to infection. Hearing Xiao Yi's words, Hua Ting became increasingly displeased and said, External injury? You suspect me of domestic violence? And don't you dare shout nonsense. I'll only know after I've examined it. Now, everyone please leave and don't disturb my examination. Xiao Yi said coldly. If this woman weren't his brother's wife, he would really want to beat her up. Hua Ting looked down at Su Mianmian and saw that her face was even redder than before. He reached out and squeezed her hand, saying, Don't be afraid as long as I'm here. You'd better make sure she's all right. After saying that, he gave Xiao Yi a threatening look, turned around and walked out. Of course I can make that sure. Xiao Yi replied calmly, taking out his tools to check Su Mianmian's temperature. Hua Ting walked out of the living room and saw Gong Beiqing already quite casually picking up a wine glass and pouring red wine to drink. They were so relaxed, as if they were at home. Seeing his appearance, Hua Ting said angrily. Gong Beiqing, you need to control your wife. She dresses like a man all the time and flirts with other women. Gong Beiqing sighed and said. I'm relieved that way. At most, my wife will only have some young girls infatuated with her when she wears this. But if she changed into women's clothes and men started chasing after her, that would be a real headache for me. You're too naive, your wife still won't give you a formal title. Don't you think that's a serious problem? Hua Ting said coldly. This matter had always been a sore spot for Gong Beiqing, and Hua Ting's bluntness caused his face to darken. He shouted. Who said my wife doesn't give me a title? She listens to me now. If I tell her to go east, she wouldn't dare go west. Hua Ting glanced at Gong Beiqing, noticing his injured face and that he didn't believe a single word he said. After a few murmurs, Gong Beiqing realized that Hua Ting was laughing at him. Don't laugh at me, I think you'll be even worse off than me now that you're married. Hua Ting said coldly. I'm not like you. He had barely finished speaking when Xiao Yi stepped out, picked up where he left off, and said disdainfully. Yeah, Xiao Gong's skills are nowhere near as bad as yours. Gong Beiqing rushed up to her obsequiously and asked considerately. Are you tired? I found a nice bottle of red wine over here. Let's take it back and drink it later. What did you mean by that? Hua Ting asked angrily. Xiao Yi reached out and pushed him, saying. My little cutie has a fever because someone was too rough and had poor technique, causing an infection in her wound. Xiao Yi walked up to Hua Ting, ignoring his fiery expression, took out a tube of ointment from her bag and gave it to him, saying. Apply this ointment to her twice a day, and also give her the fever reducer orally, she should be better in a couple of days. Hua Ting's face turned completely black. After saying that, she looked at him with a particularly strange expression, thought for a moment, and asked. If you need it, Xiao Gong has some educational videos, I'll have him send them to you later. Gong Beiqing, who was standing to the side, could no longer hold back and burst into loud laughter while clutching his stomach. Ting, don't worry, I have lots of resources over there. I'll package them all up and send them to you. I guarantee your little lamb won't get hurt next time because of your poor skills. Xiao Yi glanced at Hua Ting, who was on the verge of exploding. Hua Ting reached out to pull Gong Beiqing and then kicked him out, he said. No need. No delivery. Hua Ting felt a little better as he watched the couple disappear quickly from his sight. Su Mianmian slept until the afternoon of the next day before waking up. She didn't know if it was because she had slept too much, but when she opened her eyes, she felt completely weak. He glanced at the thermometer in his hand, wondering if his skills were really that bad. He turned to Su Mianmian and asked gently. Your fever has gone down, are you feeling unwell anywhere? Are you hungry? Would you like some porridge? Su Mianmian turned her face to the side, covered her face with the blanket, and said in a muffled voice. I'm fine, nothing's wrong. Su Mianmian blinked, saw his face, and blushed as she thought about what happened last night. Hua Ting was speechless when he saw Su Mianmian hiding under the covers. Mimi! What are you guys playing? I want to play what Dad plays. Dong Dong rolled and jumped onto the mattress until he bounced. How did you get in here? Get down and stop jumping around. Hua Ting couldn't stand Dong Dong's silly act any longer. He reached out and pulled Dong Dong, but before he could hit him, Dong Dong started howling loudly. Mimi, come save me! Daddy hit me so hard. I'm hungry. Uncle, could you please get me some porridge? Hua Ting picking Dong Dong up like a chick, then he turned to Su Mian and said softly. Okay. Daddy, I want to drink milk and have some want little buns. Dong Dong said, taking the opportunity to order. Hua Ting couldn't stand Dong Dong's silly act any longer. He reached out and tossing him aside,